I lost internet connection, so I set it to save here. Let's see here. Done. Am I back? Okay. All right. So I saved at the I saved. Let's just try and get through this. I'm a bit low on ammo, but what can you do, right? Well, at least I saved. I hate wasting rocket launcher ammo, but what can you do? All right, let's try this again. All right, well, at least I have some armor. I'm still almost dead, but at least I'm less dead. Ah, there we go. Yeah, I'm also playing on a harder difficulty level than I used to play it because I'm trying to challenge myself. I don't want it to be uh, just a walk in the park. I,
Biochemical fluidic transfer station 3 has been breached.
so one more shot. I just need to remember where to give it that shot, and that should be dead. Oh, that's from.
Warning. Pulmonary system failure. Drainage malfunction. Particle fluctuation detected at vastly unsafe levels. Investigate transfer station 3.
Yeah, B fans, for whatever reason, it's still showing me as viewer count 0, even though I know you're there. So again, I'm gonna blame the tools. Twitch Studio is still a beta, so I'm not that worried about it. Oh, by the way, while you're here, actually do a quick alt tab here. So I okay. So the reason I wasn't streaming last week is I went back up to the Bay Area to close out a storage unit, and I've been spending basically the last week uh, doing almost nothing but laundry from that storage unit. And I found a couple things that were actually uh, Quake IV related as part of that. For example, the see here, the Stroyant T-shirt. I believe this was one of the giveaways at QuakeCon. Um, and the other one was just the actual shirt for the game. Let's see here. Yeah, so there's the Quake IV game. Yeah, I'm still trying to track down more of my game shirts. Um, I found lots of the old Ritual Team shirts. I found some of my Amped and Amped 2 shirts. I still haven't found my Sin Episodes, I beat Synap before the patch shirt, but I'm still looking for that one. Anyway, back into the game.
System offline. Destroy production suspended.
All right, let's.
Hey, you're Matthew Kane. Right after we got word about you, the Strogg attacked my squad. I was the only survivor. Come on, let's get the hell out of here. Here, let me adjust your nail gun. Now you can use the sight to zoom in on your targets and the nails will track them. That's it. I'm done.
All right, let's get through this. Nope.
It looks like there's a passage out of this area right above us. But the only way we're gonna reach it is by stacking some of these barrels up and climbing over them. The storage system should set the barrels up for us. Why don't you find a way to activate it and I'll stay here and monitor you.
Cobra Squad, this is HQ. Please respond. What is your status?
Yes, the pointless puzzle section. To be fair, I think every game from this era had to have at least some pointless physics puzzle. You know, everyone was trying to follow the Half-Life 2 bandwagon.
Offline. Destroy production suspended.
I just hit the motherload of strong data on this computer. Now if I could just figure out how to use it.
Offline. Destroy production suspended. System offline. Destroy production suspended.
So the one time I beat a CPL champion in one-on-one deathmatch in Quake IV, it was because of the lightning gun. He was so used to the lightning gun having a physics effect on uh, on the player you were using it on that the version we were playing it had no physics effect, and it threw him off. It threw him off enough that I was actually able to go through and beat him by 2 frags. It's the only time I've ever beaten a professional gamer in one-on-one deathmatch. And even though it was temporary, it was a nice little ego boost.
System offline. Destroyed. Production suspended.
That conveyor system should be working. Okay. Looks like you're gonna have to restart the barrel sterilization process in order to get that conveyor online. See if you can find the sterilization controls. They must be located deeper in the facility.
Probably under where it says sterilization here.
I just heard something. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, that was embarrassing.
Okay, I'm back. It was nothing. My mind's just playing tricks on me.
Get a little closer. Get a little closer, man. Just a little closer.
System offline. Destroyed. Production suspended.
Yes, I think they actually released that. I think when they were marketing Synep, they released the footage of uh, both Sin in the Doom 3 engine, and I think they also did one of Sin in the Quake 3 engine. Um, both prototypes were actually done before I started at Ritual, so I can't really speak to them. But yeah, it looked good.
You're in the sterilization control room. There should be a way to turn on the system.
Let's see here.
Shit, it's locked up. Hold on. Let me try something. Hey! You did it! The sterilization system is online. Yes, it's working. Get back here on the double.
System online.
I know that Carmack got rid of Funk Push in the Doom 3 engine because he wanted to force everyone to use the GUI stuff. It's just kind of a shame because it led to some awkward bits of gameplay at times.
Hey, don't go dying on me. I need you to get out of here. Kane, I got company. Get your ass back here now.
Okay, disembodied voice. Of course, they just. Well, um, I think a lot of that was probably on Bethesda. Um, that said, you know, it'll be really interesting to see you know, how far the new open source culture at Microsoft embraces games. Um, if you go through and take a look at the Windows and the developer tools orgs inside Microsoft, they've really embraced open source as a means of getting things done. .NET Core is fully open sourced. Um, a lot of tools and test frameworks are open source. Microsoft just released a massive C++ fuzzing tool um, as open source. There's a lot of work being done. There's still a lot of work that's being done as a means of uh, trying to go through and say, hey, you can have a better experience if you go through and get this product, or hey, we're doing this because this will work better with our other products. But open source has really come a long way inside Microsoft. Um, and even if you go back and take a look at some of the work that they did uh, with Quake II, back when Microsoft was trying to push C++ CLI, for example. They went and got a company to do basically a .NET port of Quake 2 in the simplest way imaginable. They went through and they did a minor markup of the code base um, to go through and add in, um, make it so that the C++ code would compile down to code that would run in the .NET runtime. Um, so Microsoft and open source for games, um, yeah, they're interesting bedfellows. Um, the biggest gotcha for why a lot of the old Microsoft code bases weren't open sourced is really the companies at the time weren't um, either weren't part of Microsoft or they were kind of independent entities within Microsoft. Plus, the amount of work it takes to actually open source a closed source code base is non-trivial. If those companies used libraries that are non-public, um, there were a lot of licensed libraries in use all over the place. Uh, and for every source code release, like Mech Commander 2, which used those were from Fossa Studios, and those used the Game OS libraries that we even used in Lynx 2001 through Lynx 2000. Uh, I think Lynx 2004. Um, yeah, there were lots of little gotchas here and there. Um, Even just trying to go through and clean up the profanity in some of this code bases was interesting. Um, but yeah, it's non-trivial to go through and actually open source a closed source code base. I would like it to be easier, um, but it's not always going to be easy. Also, there's some times where, for contractual reasons, we can't release. A good example, um, if you go back and take a look at the links courses, one of the reasons why no one was ever able to go through and make a course editor for the older links games is that the table of contents for all of the courses was encrypted. And it was encrypted using a mechanism called Bunkyfish, if I remember correctly. Um, the encryption key is inside it's inside the executable. It's a binary stream. Um, but you know, figuring out the decryption and encryption mechanisms would basically make it so you couldn't go through and make your own courses for those older Lynx games, and that was one way of kind of protecting their market um, for those add-on courses. All right. Um, so there's a lot of interesting stuff with the Xbox code base, code bases. Um, on the original Xbox, all network traffic was encrypted except for communication traffic. So anything that was sent over via text or via voice chat, that was always sent in the clear. The way that the XDP packets were designed was that everything was always encrypted except for the voice data or the text chat data. Um, but a lot of the encryption on the for the disks, that was it was hardware encryption on the Xbox side of things. But on the PC side of things, it wasn't so much that the encryption was carried over as much as the hardware limitations were carried over. Deus Ex Invisible War was designed to work within the limits of the consoles at the time. And so on the PC, it didn't make any sense to go through and have to redesign all of that code. Um, or repackage all of the levels. And that was what led to a lot of stuff like Thief, Deadly Shadows, small levels as well. Um, but a lot of the stuff that happened on the consoles did lead to a lot of changes uh, uh, on on PC games because to be honest with you, the PC game market, uh, while it was profitable for some people, just because of a lot of you know, uh, if a game was released for console and PC, uh, at that time, usually console would be 70 to 80% of the total sales. PC really was not a high unit mover. PC had a lot of enthusiasts. Um, People would go through and spend, $2,000 on a decent PC. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of people would be like, "Well, I've spent the money on the PC. Why do I have to spend all the money on the game as well?" Um, and you know, I it's it's a difficult conversation to have, and it's one that you know I've already said my piece many times about, and it's not something I'm necessarily going to get into on these streams going forward. But there are some benefits that came through. A lot of the shared engine code bases made it so that things like save game systems were a lot more stable. Save systems used to be a major issue uh, on a lot of games back in the days. Um, uh, Being able to go through and handle a wide variety of controller inputs, uh, that actually hurt a lot post console release. Um, you'd get keyboard mouse, but not necessarily in a remappable form. Um, and likewise, you'd get the controllers. There were some benefits, especially once X Input came out. Having a nice standardized input library across everything um, helped in many respects. It also hurt at times because through X input you couldn't necessarily do something like the Steel Battalion controller, that massive 30 plus button monstrosity. Um, Even though it was still USB, it's just because the controllers that X input supported were prescribed. So you had guitar controllers and other types of controllers, and adding in new types of controllers was difficult. Um, X input had a lot of benefits. Also had it had its own set of gotchas. Most of those gotchas are pretty much gone now with the newer versions of X input. One nice thing about X input though was it did a lot of work to actually reduce controller latency. Um, Essentially, in the past, controllers were a constant stream of data. So anytime that there was um, you know, you always had to be either continuously polling. You had to be continuously polling the controller. Um, One thing they did with X input was they made it so that the controller um, pushed updates to the host. Um, and if there was no pushed update, uh, it would X input would return the last set of values. That was one way they were able to go through and actually get enough bandwidth over USB to be able to support 4 concurrent controllers without the controllers fighting with each other. So there's some fun there. Let's get through this next level.
Destroy digestive cycle initiated.
Viper Squad, this is HQ. A group of cornered Marines have been located in your area. Roger that, HQ. Viper Squad is en route now to help.
right. I hate to do this, but I have to pause the stream for about 1 minute. So please forgive me for 1 moment. Sorry about that. One of the downsides of my decade in game dev is I gained a lot of weight. When I first went into game development, I was 130, and when I left, I was 305. Um, During my last little bit at Ritual, I was diagnosed as type 2 diabetic, as one would come to expect. I'm happy to say I've lost a lot of weight since then. I'm back down to around 187, but unfortunately, I'm still diabetic. There's still times where I've got to go through and just take a break, step away from the keyboard, do what I need to do. So, apologies for the break in the stream. Let's resume.
A research team should be studying this facility. Somehow the Strong are able to break the Destroyer down into pure enzymes.
Yeah, it's one thing I try and do now that I'm out of games is I really try and make sure I take care of myself. Um, Yeah, my heart goes out to the CD Projekt Red developers who had to go through crunch in order to ship. Well, congratulations for making it to 40. Yeah, I I there has been a lot of entitlement culture, unfortunately. Um,
This is Corporal Hatton to any member of Cobra. It is imperative we regroup.
yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's just the um, it's not just the it's I think there's a lot of reasons why we ended up with a lot of the entitlement culture that we have. Um, a lot of that said, at least at the moment, I'm not quite sure how to address it. Um, I mean, part of it is just how gaming was marketed for so many years. It was a, you know, gaming was being marketed as a boys' club, and that led to a lot of people essentially being exclusionary by default and seeing other people encroach on their territory um, um, led to a lot of issues. A lot of a lot of corporate decisions over the last several years have also kind of led to some of it. Um, in the past, you could have cheat codes, custom outfits, everything just within the game. Then as DLC took off, more and more of that stuff went from being, "Hey, it's a secret, it's there for our fans," to, "If you want it, you got to pay extra for it." You were no longer getting the entire game that you paid for out of the box. You had to pay extra for a lot of it, and uh, there was also a lot of issues with, well, this isn't how I wanted it, so it needs to be changed. Um, and there are two sides of that. On one side, you've got the Mass Effect thing where you know they've flat out marketed it as there won't be a pick a button at the end and get a and you that's the ending you get, and the ending they cranked out was exactly that. Um, and then on the other side, there's games uh, like Gone Home, where the first time I played Gone Home, I didn't like it. Um, it uh, I felt like it left a lot of unresolved threads, but I wasn't threatening anyone or being upset about, I wasn't, you know, I took it as maybe it was something that just wasn't for me at the time. Um, but there were people who were just getting absolutely livid at the Gone Home developers because they had the gall to make essentially a game about the life of, you know, a teenage lesbian in a very tasteful form. But I don't know. It's just I'm not sure I don't know about everything that led to entitlement culture, and I'm not exactly sure how we can go through and solve it. I'm not even sure if we can easily solve it at this point. Um, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. See what we can do here. I don't remember how to get through this bit. I really don't remember how to get through this bit. I think I was supposed to time everything so it goes through, but
Enzyme distribution failure. Transport systems deactivated.
I'm trying to remember where the nearest health nearest place is to heal.
Potent surface detected in biofilm sublevels.
Hmm. So they've been making some pretty interesting decisions with Doom. Um, the Doom re-releases that they've been doing lately, where it's been um, Unity acting as a rendering and input processing proxy while still using the original native code. I like that approach. I do like the fact that they now have a native widescreen Doom. Um, I, I like that. Um, BFG was BFG was an attempt to try to address some of the complaints of people who didn't like the pacing that. Hello, Chukabhabra. Um, um, uh, but um, but yeah, BFG was really an attempt to try to address some of the complaints of players. Uh, people who were trying to second guess the design. Um, uh, the other thing that BFG did was it let them go through and release a version of the engine without Carmack's reverse in use. Um, uh, that was the bit of code that Creative Labs had a patent on um, to go through and do the shadows. Uh, but it's an interesting scenario. I lost psych here. My stream info. I lost my Quake IV stream info. I don't know why I'm losing data. I'm using Twitch Studio Beta to stream, so we'll see what the issues are. But really, it was just because of that. The other thing is that they were able to get some better optimized shaders, do some lighting adjustments in BFG. But really, BFG was just to try to address some more of the fanboy complaints and the like. Um, the Doom the Doom uh, items that were in there also had a lot of the modifications that had been um, the reason for the pill icon instead of the red plus on the boxes was the same reason that we had to change our red crosses to the blue asterisks in Sin episodes. The red cross really was getting upset with games using the red cross to indicate health in games, and so pretty much everyone changed it. Yeah. I mean, one nice thing about a lot of the source ports is they're able to do a lot of work um, with newer stuff. But yeah, um, I'll check over. If you go back and watch any of my previous streams, I've got them all up on YouTube as well. I actually go into a lot of the limitations that we had when working with Quake 4. When we were working with the Doom 3 and Quake 4 engine, we were limited to a max of 4 concurrent lights on any one surface at a time. Because if we had any extra lights, it would require an entire additional render pass, which is fine. There's not a problem with that. Um, but the uh, but that in all honesty, that usually meant that you could have 2 light sources on any on any one surface because the other two light sources were going to be taken up by projectile lights or the flashlight from the player. If you ever want to completely tank your frame rate in Doom 3 or uh, uh, in Quake 4, uh, go into a fully lit area, have the flashlight on, be shooting your machine gun while you're being shot at by someone else, and your frame rate will often drop in half because of the extra render pass that's required. It most likely won't on the uh, newer machines, but on machines that were around when this was released, that would drop your frame rate down to sub 15 FPS in some cases. I need to find health. Oh, and regarding the Quake 4 expansion pack, there's one other reason why it may never see the light of day, and and it's actually because the game was the game was being done as kind of a work for hire. But there was a royalty agreement um, with with Ritual, that and that agreement persists even though the game was technically canceled. Um, so the likelihood of the expansion ever seeing the light of day is pretty close to zero at this point. I thought that this was where I was supposed to go. Oh, all right. There we go. All right, so I need to find either a health station or a health pickup or something because I am 7 ways to screwed right now. There we go. So I've got about 15 minutes left of the stream. Are there any questions or anything I can answer before I try and finish up this last level? If not, I'm just going to try and get through this next level and then call it a night. Um, let's see here. I wish Doom and Quake remake again by Unreal Engine. It's really better and more effectual. Um, so realistically, the engine that something is done in matters a lot less than the skill in that engine from the people um, uh, who are uh, who are who are good with it. You can make some absolutely amazing games using the Unity engine, and you can make some absolute garbage using the Unreal Engine, and vice versa. The one great thing that has happened um, over the last, I'd say, decade, is that the number of engines that have come out where you can rapidly spin up a game and have something running quickly has uh, the number of engines has proliferated. Game development really has become democratized. It's not like back when Quake 2 came out, where if you wanted to go through and license the Quake 2 engine, it was $10,000 for the engine. If you wanted to license Quake 3, um, if you wanted to license Quake 3, it I think it was $100,000 just to license the engine. Um, it, gra- it a lot of things gradually add up. Um, the source engine, where Valve started being very liberal in its licensing and allowing it to be used on anything for essentially free, as long as it was being released on Steam, with the exception of licensing Havoc. You had to pay for the licenses for two libraries in order to use Source. I think it was Havoc and an audio bit, if I remember correctly. If you want to make a retail release, um, but for all of its faults, the Source engine was great for being able to go through and build those, a certain type of game. Unity did a lot to go through and improve the workflow of being a game developer. It has a lot of its own legacy baggage as well, but it's really come a long way. And now with the high definition render pipeline and the universal render pipeline, you can make some amazingly great, great looking games that are performant if you know how to work within the engine. If you take a look at um, Deadly Premonition on the Switch, um, looks like a great game, but they obviously didn't have much of a clue on how to optimize within the confines of the Unity engine. Likewise, the Unreal 4 engine has some amazing um, the Unreal 4 engine has some amazing capabilities to be able to go through um, and uh, and render PBR environments, a lot of great stuff. But again, it can look perfect, but optimizing that, making it so that it not only looks good but performs, that takes a lot of pre-planning, a lot of knowledge of what's going on under the hood in the engine, in order to go through and actually make it do what it needs to do. Every engine, it doesn't matter if it's an id engine or Unity or Unreal, they can all do amazing things. But unless you have that extra bit of depth of knowledge to be able to go through and make it actually behave the way that you want it to behave, you can throw anything at it, but it doesn't mean you're going to be getting something good out on the other side. Um, Unreal is a great engine. It may be the wrong engine to recreate some of these um, just due to the way that if you wanted if they wanted to just go through and port the geometry, that may actually be easier to do in Unity um, than in Real. Uh, because of the way that the renderers work. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that it is it's 100% um, a bad. Now that said, do I think Unreal is a bad engine? No. I was actually a paid licensor of the Unreal Engine 4 for some personal projects I was working on before they went open source. I think Unreal Engine 4, especially the work that they've been doing with visual designers, the blueprint editors that they've been doing, it makes rapid prototyping great, and the fact that you can quickly transition a blueprint over to C++ code to allow it to be more heavily optimized is a great thing. So I'm not saying Unreal is bad. Their tooling investments and their rendering investments have definitely paid a lot of dividends for them. Um, Also, I think in many cases, I think their licensing terms make them the ideal choice. But that's for smaller indie devs. But that is a business decision. That's not a. Uh, it's a business decision. It isn't a technical decision or a. Um, it's not a technical decision or a uh, or a design decision. Really, you can do wonderful stuff and horrible stuff in any game engine now. You just have to find the right engine for your type of workflow and your type of uh, for your type of workflow and your approaches. For me, for the stuff that I do, I tend to bounce back and forth between UE4, Unity, and Monogame. Monogame, it isn't an engine. It's a very low-level framework, based on Microsoft's XNA. Yeah. Like DirectX 7, everything looks real, but graphically low. I like Windows Millennium a lot. Funny thing about Windows ME, that operating system had a 4K a second memory leak. It was actually baked into the OS, where it had a lot of issues. DirectX 7 was interesting because it was the first time that you had hardware transformation and lights. Um, DX8 was where they first started actually introducing shaders, and that's where you started seeing a lot of this, um, the progress. So again, I'm going to try and get through this next level, and then I'm going to call the stream for the night. I need to go get I need to go to the store before they close. It's the one. A lot of stuff here in Las Vegas has reopened, but not everything has yet. I think I have a DirectX 3 book somewhere on in my books that I haven't unpacked yet. I have way too many items. Anyway, let's try and get through the rest of this. Yeah, DX7 will still compile. I think DX3 well, I think DX3 will still compile if you have an older C++ version, but yeah. Um, most stuff pre DX7 has been deprecated and removed from the SDK. The DLLs are still present on your machine, but they've been removed from the SDK. All right, let's do this.
Tactical unit dispatched to tunnel breach.
Hey, you're Matthew Kane. My squad was scattered. Just got word we're assembling back at the entrance to this facility. Watch yourself. There's acid sprayers in here that'll chew through armor in no time.
Warning, decomposition solution activated.
There are freaking zombies down here. I just killed one, but it bit me. Shit, I need a medic.
Yeah, I'm familiar with most of the cheat codes, but I'm trying not to use any of them this playthrough.
Where the hell is everyone? I can't get readings on any med chips. We gotta regroup or they're gonna pick us apart. Where the hell is everyone? I can't get readings on any med chips. We gotta regroup or they're gonna pick us apart.
All right, well. Yeah, a lot of it's because of the contrast. You know, shadows really pop when it against red.
Hey, so you're still alive. Good. Let's go hook up with my squad at the entrance.
Multiple entities detected in Reservoir 12.
This one's mine. You dead meat freak. Bring it, Strog. Come on, Squib.
All right, let's try this one more time.
Multiple entities detected in Reservoir 12. Intruder alert. Sector D429 terminated.
Hey, it's that Kane guy.
Damn, are we lucky to see you? We're the last of Cobra Squad. That door is the exit out, but we can't get through the security scanner.
Yeah, it fried Private Johnson when he tried to go through.
I analyzed the scanning circuits. All they're looking for is proper Strog ID codes.
Wouldn't Kane have those codes? He looks pretty Strog to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet they do.
How about it, Kane? You want to try walking through? It should read you as Strog.
Let me see that rocket launcher. Here. Now, if you hold scope after you fired a rocket, you can guide it where you want it to go. It's great for shooting around cover.
All right, let's see if we can get through this so we can end the stream on a high note.
Kane! You have to get out of here! I don't know how much longer I can last! Go! Get out of here! I can't control it! Run!
That's right. I'm supposed to take out all of the pipes in here before I go after the before I go after the boss. Otherwise, he can re-heal. Well, let's see if I can beat this boss before I have to call it a night. can do this. We can do this. Come on. All right.
Station 48 security grid deactivated.
Let me fix
Okay,
your armor.
remain there. I'll be there in a second.
There
Enough
you go.
lounging around,
Try to be a
Marine.
little more
Back
careful,
into the
all right?
fight.
All right. Level end should be through this other door, and then I can call it a night.
Deadly, Marine. They're strong, but deadly, Marine. Freaking
Cannon fodder.
Look, it's Matthew Kane. He's alive. Come on, get on board. We'll have you back at the Hannibal in no time.
All right, so I'm going to call it a stream there. Pleasure seeing a a new visitor. Um, again, I'm going to try and stream every Wednesday until this is over. Once this game is over, I'm going to look at maybe branching out into 2 streams a week. But we'll work from there. All right. But anyway, it's a pleasure, everyone. I'll have the on-demand stream uploaded sometime tomorrow. But take care, everyone. Have fun. Peace.